Hey gang, it's Kevin, Life22. Um, so I just would like to point out that I love all my followers and I love my fan mail. And my fan mail is now defined by any acts of hatred against me. Love it. Just love it. Just keep it coming. Um, also, um, one of our sponsors, Quinn's Crafts, which is the former Quinn's Way Coffee House, which also expanded to crafts and remained in crafts even after the coffee shop closed down. And we're coming up with all sorts of products. This is a custom made, like it was a chosen product by a customer. We've designed it for them, and we're working on. Quinn's Crafts has offered to do Life22's consignment, so we essentially are doing anything that you ask of us. So I'm forwarding you to them, but regardless, I just want to let you guys know that your Life22 products will be available shortly. So our merch store, oh, I forgot to mute that, huh? Boom. Anyways, our merch store will be open soon. We can do stuff like this. I know for all you manly men out there who want this polka dot leopard gal with sunglasses and headband thing. I mean, it's scratch resistant. You can wash it. You don't have to soak it. You don't have to worry. It ain't like those vinyl products that they used to sell. It's pretty cool stuff. So anyways, just slam down a water after a White Russian. Boom. Got my notes in front of me. And I'd also like to point out that everything on this channel is my personal views. My views alone, and are not that of my employer. Now, depending on which employer, because I have multiple employers, either way, they're not that of my employers. So, that aside, I would like to also let you know that during these News Over Beer sessions, I am drinking beer, which this isn't quite beer. I just finished a White Russian, and now I'm slamming down a White Claw. Anyways, Friday is Sober October, so if you don't follow the channel, you need to know that Sober October is our annual October life theming event. We're sober the entire month of October. I invited you to join me for August, which is All Family August, and be sober. Now, September, actually, I haven't drank that much. I've drank less this September than any other September in my life pre-16 years of age. Pre-18 years of age. So anyways, I drank when I was 16, but I didn't drink this much. But it's borderline. I'm probably drinking just as much this September that I did when I was 16, which lets you know that I didn't drink that much this September, even though I went from a full August of of sobriety, and then I went to I'm about to go into my 4th sober October. I think this will be my 4th sober October with no drinking. So that said, I'm enjoying it while it lasts. I have a class tomorrow night. I've got stuff going on. It's June's birthday tomorrow. So if you see Miss June, you must wish her happy birthday. And then she, let's see here. But we've got a lot going on, so she'll be celebrating her birthday on Friday. I will be celebrating with her, but I will not be drinking during the celebration, which does not mean the celebration does not exist. So there we go. Boom. So, how did we get here? Wow. See, those White Russians, they really get to you. You got to watch out for them. Anyways, man, 16's flooding back to me now, right? Like, when was the last time you had a White Russian? 16 years of age? No, I'm just kidding. But everything on this, so like Everything on this channel is my personal opinion and is my God-given right to produce. And I'd like to point this out. I want to start with a disclaimer. As we discussed in the last News Over Beers, if you can hold something against me on my channel, you have to hold it all against me. Or for me. And so, because this is out here, this disclaimer, this is freedom of speech. This channel is my opinion. And as I discussed, and I'll go into a prologue, I guess, or a prelogue? Prologue. And it might sound pretty analog. I love to quote Tinker versus Des Moines. It is one of my favorite court cases. The kids walking to school with black armbands to protest the Vietnam War. I am free speech. I'm free speech. You can't stop free speech. If you follow me on Twitter, my Twitter profile promotes the fact that I promote free speech. Dinesh D'Souza goes into a great 5-minute series on each one of the founding fathers on Prager University, and I've been sharing each one as I've been watching them, so that you can follow me, because every time I watch a video or I listen to an audiobook, I'd like to tweet about it, so you can follow literally my evolutionary scale on that. But the founding fathers, and I believe it was James Madison, who agreed with the government, that agreed with the creation of a government that was... No, he was the... Was it James Madison? Damn you. So anyways, James Madison was the... And now we're going on a tangent here, and no one's going to follow. That one's empty. Oh, we just cracked this one. Here we go. Alexander Hamilton was the great capitalist. Was James Madison. He created the Constitution. He was a big proponent of the Constitution of the United States, and he wanted to create a government that was rivaled by every person. It would stifle you in government to be able to do what you wanted to do, because you had to listen to the opinions of other people, and it also stifled majority rule. And that's where the filibuster comes in, and things like that, to keep checks and balances in place, to prevent majority rule, because majority rule can destroy this country. So it allowed from an ideological standpoint, from people who have different from a different ideology, a different idea standpoint, for layman's terms, if you have a different idea, you would be considered, let's use the term marginalized. That sounds fair. You're marginalized. You're on the margins of the idea spectrum. And so if you're on the margins of the idea spectrum, the ideological spectrum, you would then be able to fight the government. One man could fight the government. And it made individual freedom that much stronger. For people my generation, I'm gonna quote Doug Funny, and one little voice One little voice. Boom. Not a lot of people will get that one, but so I'm going to move on. One person can fight the government with their freedom of speech. And that was the purpose of a lot of the checks and balances that James Madison put into place. And this is probably one of the most fundamental things in our culture, in our society, in our government, in the way that we live. I cannot stress this the most. I listened to it and it was like click, boom. This is hitting home for me. Dinesh D'Souza put this out on Monday on PragerU, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. That's me. I'm the one little voice that people are trying to squash. My freedom of speech, which is put here to allow me to not be put in the stockades, repercussions from government, for my critique of my government, no matter how big or how small my government may be. I am afforded these rights, regardless whether I am of the dissenting opinion or not. Isn't that that is an amazing thing? I can't believe most of you don't. I just had more appreciation for my breath because of that. And I would like most of you to let that settle in. That exhale was a sigh of relief of how great this country is, because I can do that. And because of that, and because of my country's constitution, which then in turn helped create my own internal constitution, I am not in fear of anything. I fear for nothing, because I can use my voice to speak out where I see injustice. And where I see justice, and I need to fight against injustice, attacking justice, there is always a constant battle. And I feel, and I know that I've said this on the channel, I hate when I hear the people say I feel. But I do feel. And you know what? I'm not at a public meeting. I'm in a place where I'm allowed to speak my opinions. I'm allowed to say my opinions. I'm not saying that people can't say their opinions in public meetings. I'm just saying that you can't expect criticism. But I'm also saying it publicly, so I would expect criticism. So, bring it on. Regardless, I am fearful of nothing that can happen to me because I live in such a great country. That holds so much weight to me. To all of us, it should. This is your country too. Why would you not hold it so greatly? You can speak your opinion against the government without having to worry about things like your job being taken away, your livelihood. You being able to help out your community. Somebody trying to take your rights away because you have a dissenting opinion. That is the best part about this country. That no matter what I think, I might be criticized. People might hold that against me. But I can't, it can't hurt me. That in and of itself is like an amazing thing. You can't hurt me. I know you can hear me thinking it too. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but my words cannot hurt me. And I love this country. Love it. Shook my own monitor there, which the camera sits on, so you get to catch a little bit of that. Oh, love for this country. 15 minutes in. All right, sorry. All right, gang. We're going to move to the news over beers. We're going to move to the council meeting. And news over beers next month is going to be a little bit different because we're not going to be able to have drinking Kevin, so I'm going to have people on the show, or you're just going to catch me sober. So, let's see here. We are switching over to... Boom! There we go. Hey! How you doing? Alright. We are switching to the September 28th council meeting, which is last night. Boom. Ooh.
I'll call to order Committee of the Whole for Tuesday.
So, you'll have to give me 1 second. I forgot to switch the audio output to Yeti speakerphone.
September 28th, 2021. Let the record show that all aldermen are present, with the exception
So, from
of
0 to
Alderman
1 minute,
Barr,
they
who is
speak
excused.
about finance and bills.
First on our agenda, we have finance and bills.
This
We've
is the
all
committee of the
seen
whole.
finance and bills.
And
Earlier this
at the
week,
1 minute mark, they talk about a
any
revolving
questions or
loan
comments
fund.
on finance and bills?
The revolving loan fund, for those of you who
Seeing
don't
none,
know,
I'll entertain a sponsor.
they're just going to move it forward.
Sponsored by Alderman Witt.
So those of you who don't know,
Take
what
a
he's doing
second.
here is it's sponsored, it's seconded, it's voted upon, it's moved to the common council meeting. So they have no questions about finance and bills. So we're just going to shuffle through there. If any of you out there in TV land have questions about finance and bills, you can always foil these documents, at which point you can question them at council meetings. I always invoke people to do such a thing. I've always done that. Even when I was an alderman, people would ask me about what goes on with the finances of the city. I say foil the finance and bills and you will know, and nobody ever does. So here we go. Anyways, the revolving loan fund comes up into the 1 minute mark, and that is a loan in which well, I'm inexperienced in this area because I'm sure I'm using a different terminology, but some people can buy, like, we have a first home buyer credit, which is different than the revolving loan fund, which is for commercial buildings. And the community development coordinator will go over that during
Seconded
that
by
portion
Alderman
of the segment.
Anastasia. Financial assistance as recommended by the revolving loan fund committee.
There's a whole separate committee for it, which
number
is managed by the
71-03,
development director,
and an amount not to
coordinator.
exceed $30,000. So I believe this would be Ms. Kirker.
The revolving loan fund committee met on the 22nd of September and reviewed the applicant's financial information, the estimates and
They
quotes
won't
received
tell you
for the
an
loan and
address
the
or anything like
application
that. I don't know if
itself.
that's spoilable information.
The work to the
They're-
building consists of HVAC work, roof,
They kind of tell you what's going on with it, what they're doing, what they're approving, and they forward it on and approve it, and then they move on to a website. I'm all for anybody who wants to borrow money because they're on the hook, regardless. This isn't like some
Any comments or questions? Alderman Witt.
unclean
Thank you.
funds. She asked generic questions. Let's see here.
Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a sponsor. Sponsor by Alderman Witt.
They sponsor it, they move it onwards, and then we talk about the city
Okay,
website.
motion carried and referred to tonight's regular meeting. So next, we have a discussion as far as an update goes on our city website design. So last we talked, we've received two good presentations, one from Civic Plus, which comes with a little bit higher capability, higher price tag, and then more recently was the town web proposal. So I just, I reached out to you a little while ago. I've got a couple of you to provide feedback, but this is more, again, this is just a discussion. Where do we set aside funding for it? Where are we thinking of going? And so I'll start off with the mayor and see if he has any thoughts.
Well, yes, thank you, John. We saw both presentations. I've had a couple of conversations with our IT department. We feel the town web is
essentially what's going on is the IT department recommends. I'm going to pause this real quick. The IT department is recommending the there we go. Sorry. It's they're proposing the the lower of the two. The first budget presentation for the website, the budget was just ridiculous. So this next guy came in at half the price, and they're offering the same amount of stuff, and he's a grassroots kind of business and makes sense. Let's go with this person. And so they decide on that because they want to upgrade the website. I've stated my opinions in the past about the website. I think the website is not as important to moving people to this area. There's a big notion amongst the discussion that people move here because of our website. It shows that we are hip with the times. I don't think that people move to any place because they think that the local municipality is hip with the times. I think they move here because of jobs. I think they move here because of opportunity. I think they moved here because of tax structure. I think they move here because of maybe ideological or religious bases or family or whatever. I don't think that the website is going to move more people here, but to each their own. I'm not on the council anymore. I guess I don't have a say in that, so I accept that. So, but we're going to put some money into the website, which currently, from previous meetings, is shown that is run by our IT department, and it is free, and they have kind of managed it for this long. And the one IT guy, from what he said in the one meeting, was he's self-taught, and they didn't take that as a professional degree, which I don't know. I'm self-taught in everything that I've done in my life, and I've gotten pretty. I think I've done pretty well for myself. So, and for free and not included in your job description, and you just do it. Whatever. I'm not going to get into the website. Let's move on to 7 minutes and 15 seconds into the meeting. Oop, I think I may have jumped past it because 8 minutes. Oh, let's jump back.
Association.
The Catnipper program.
I've received
Kevin Doherty
many
favorite.
more calls now as the feral cat populations are just booming here in Olean, and COVID is partly to blame, and also the catnippers have no staff to set up shop here in the city as much as it really needs to be a focus. So I think we need a little bit of a strategy improvement there. But I wondered if maybe the mayor could give us an update. I know we were in talks with a new contract with the SPCA, and maybe what he suggests going forward.
Yeah, we've been in negotiations with them. We have some issues with the contract. We've ran it by Jack Hart. We're getting some advice from Chief, and in talks with an individual for this. Get it out and we'll get it going. One of the things that we need to do is, Ags and Marketing has, so we need a animal control officer. They say dog control officer, but we want to get an animal control officer. So we've been in talks with an individual.
So, the Catnipper program has fallen by the wayside, which the DEC doesn't hand out cat spay neuter or deer spay neuter release programs. So I'd like to point that out. They handle, like, I hate the fact that lions are cats and we don't regulate them because they're wild animals. And so, like, people like to put things in boxes, and this is one of those areas where when we put them into a subcategory, like, well, these are cats, but we don't define what a cat is, and we just say this is a cat, domesticated cat, and then it's up to the discretion of somebody else. Anyways, the city of Olean is, according to what the mayor just said, is required to have an animal control officer. I looked into this when I wanted to fight the stray cat program, stray cat problem. There is a problem. Every day when I walk outside my house and I step in cat shit in my gravel driveway, I'm sorry that I have a gravel driveway, which is a glorified litter box. I have stray cats that shit in there. I had to put up a fence around my house so that cats wouldn't shit in my driveway. I have a dog and I have a cat, and both are required to be on a leash, in a fence, or in my yard. And if my animals leave my yard, if my dog leaves my yard, I'm in trouble. If my cat leaves my yard, I'm not. I don't understand why. Because everyone was growing up with the norms that cats are allowed to run free and dogs can't. They have to be tethered and slaved to a leash. That to me is ridiculous. Like, because we should treat all animals the same. So if we have to cage one, you cage them all. But what I don't understand is the why I have to suffer with somebody else being negligent. And that's why I had once proposed a discussionary item that we talk about licensure of cats, because it creates an ownership trail. If you own a cat and your cat runs at large, then you're responsible for your cat shitting on my driveway. I need someone's nose to rub into it. And if you don't own the cat, then I can't rub your nose in it. If you do own the cat, then I can. And that's my big deal. That was my hugest deal. I want to rub your nose in your cat shit that's in my driveway. Get your cat shit out of my driveway, and I won't rub your nose in it. Those are big things. Those are big sticking points for me. I don't want to step in cat shit in my driveway. It's not my driveway. Or it is my driveway, but it's not my cat shit. If my cat shits in my driveway, then I will gladly step in it. But my cat doesn't leave the house. My cat doesn't leave the house because I don't have a fence or a leash or anything to put my cat on to prevent my cat from leaving my property line. And I don't want my cat going on your driveway, because I will own up to my cat shit and expect my nose to be rubbed in my cat's poop in your driveway, on your porch, in your steps. Wherever my cat shits, I'm expecting my nose to be rubbed. That's why my cat doesn't leave the house. My cat guards my house internally from mice and rats and other things like that. And if she doesn't do her job, my cat understands that's her job, so she would get fired. So, other people let their cats run nonchalantly through my neighborhood, and I'm not a big fan. Not a huge fan. I don't allow my dog. If I allowed my dog to run loose, I would be super liable. My dog. There's cats in my neighborhood that scratch other people. Like, oh, if my dog went and scratched or bit somebody, I would be sued. I would be sued until my colon was over my head. But that doesn't happen with cats because cats are so innocent. Anyways, the cat process. The city is required to have an animal control officer to handle dogs, a dog warden, if you will, not cats, not specified, but not cats. And I'm assuming why the city's been in talks is because the city's required to have one. And the SPCA contract required them to handle that for us, and it was the cheapest part because dogs don't run at large in our city too often. Cats do. And I'm assuming their animal control officer left, at which point they had no authority to complete the contract in which we were handled. So the SBCA has failed their end of the contract, so we no longer should pay them. And I'm just getting this from, because why would the city else reach out to an animal control officer? And then Bill goes on to say,
for this, at first that individual wanted to come on as a city employee. And I think we'd be better served to do it as a contract service. So we're working with this person to give us a quote as a contract service.
and as a city employee, they would have benefits and a bunch of other stuff. Stability is what people look for. But also at contract services, they would turn around and probably triple their bill, which would make sense. But we have... And I believe... Jesus, it's been so long since I looked this stuff up. I read so many... I have so many hours into Ags and Market Law and into the DEC law to try to determine where we fell, because they kind of have crisscrossed, because feral cats are like a wild animal, but they're not regulated by the DC. They're regulated by Ags and Markets, and all domesticated animals are regulated by Ags and Markets. But there's so much that describes a feral cat in DEC law that it's so close. So you almost have to know that law to know how to treat certain things, but almost everything is described by the Ags and Markets and the health department. Which describes how, like, humane laws and like euthanasia and stuff like that is described by Ags and Markets, and it's an amazing thing how like deep and convoluted our system is. I believe the police department. And I may be wrong about this because it's been so long since I looked this up, but I thought that the police department could name themselves as a peace officer in this case, but they would have to be a kill shelter because they're not going to house animals. So, but nobody ever wanted to define it that way, which means that like it's there, but nobody ever defined it that way, which means that it's not going to happen because we are in an anti-kill shelter society nowadays. We'll kill unborn babies in the womb, but we won't kill a dog. Like, it's... Go figure, right? Like, that's... I don't know. So...
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just, a couple items to mention. In our previous talks with the SPCA, they didn't want to deal with the feral cat business.
Nobody wants to deal with the feral cat business. Nobody likes my determination on what we should do with the cats. As I just described, I can describe euthanasia all day long, but they're not people, so...
Still has a...
So anyways, let's move on. Because I don't like to talk about this topic, because nobody likes me talking about this topic, so let's continue on. If you'd like me to talk about this topic, I will gladly talk about that, but you need to send a comment or your lovely hate mail below, and I will talk about this for days. 13 minutes and 15 seconds in.
A request for a quick update. This isn't on our agenda, but I drove by there coming here, and I remembered
7-Eleven drainage.
Water issues over by North Union, by 7-Eleven. I wondered if Director Rick...
What we're talking about is being done at First Street and North Union Street. Brad and I were down there this past week.
So they talk about it in this segment here. So the squeaky wheel will get the grease if you bitch loud enough.
Okay, very good. Is that good, Alderman Anastasia? We're good there? So Alderman, October 8th is the deadline to get a catch basin in. We appropriated that money a while back, we all remember. And so I look forward to getting that resolved. All right. Anything else for committee of the whole? Oh, Alderman Webb.
So I'm just chatting.
So
That's
this
all
part
right.
right here.
I've had several calls about the deer issue again. One
I
gentleman
am a
actually
big fan of
suggested
this.
we put a deer crossing on Genesee Street.
So they want a deer crossing on Genesee Street, a deer culling. So, I don't know how the DEC referred to themselves, officers. Anyways, Officer Rockefeller came in to give a presentation a few years ago, thanks to Alderman Smith, and explained a lot of this stuff about a deer culling and deer populations and how you want to curb the population before they get too high and start causing car accidents and things like that, and shrubbery damage, which is one of the big things. And we'll let these aldermen speak about it real quick.
They like the little creek there. They're constantly coming down and crossing the street. So the deer problem hasn't gone away. We still have a bunch of deer. And I know a couple years ago, we talked, I think it was Alderman Smith, and we had a person from the DEC. And I also found out that other communities have taken their suggestion and have done it. And folks just wanted to know what we were going to do about the deer issue. I know they cross in front of our house constantly too.
Alderman Gonzalez?
Has anyone hit a deer in the city of Olean with their car driving?
We had someone hit one on Main Street
When? Was it recently?
just recently.
Really?
So I'm not one to side with Linda, typically, but I'm going to side with her because people hit deer all the time, and I'm an avid hunter of deer. I use every part of the animal. I eat them. I use their skins, whatever. So to all you out there that says that it's wasteful, these deer are procreating at an ungodly rate, and they're gonna cause a problem. And that's what Officer Rockefeller proposed, that you do this before they waste valuable resources. They start eating people's lawn gardens. They start doing all sorts of stuff, and I have to disagree with Paul because he's about to.
They were probably going too fast. Seriously, you hit a deer on Main Street, what are you doing? You're going 30 miles an hour and you can't stop.
Deer are charging across the road because they know how fast you're going.
There was a lot of deer that used to get hit by Archbishop Walsh in that area there they crossed. There's always deer getting hit there.
Yeah, and it's not even crossing the road, they're in the neighborhood, they're in backyards, they're places where typically they're not found, but now they just become very comfortable in the community, and that's what we brought us a couple years ago.
I hate being Linda's best friend, but this one, I gotta agree with Linda on this one.
The issue has gone away, I think it's still
Me and her
there.
argue all the time, but I'll be on her side on this one.
Decided to do anything, or we're just gonna let nature take its course.
There's a handful of deer that live in Seneca Heights and they just wander around all night. And actually, I think it adds to the charm of that area, so I would be against anything that would make them dead.
I'll let them know.
Last week I went and got my hunting permit, and when I applied for the doe permit, this area was rated low, so you couldn't even get it for primary or secondary.
So I'm actually double checking these numbers on this because it's not that they're rated low, it's that there are low tickets given because there is square footage of that you can't hunt in this area, because the assumption is you can't hunt in the city. That is incorrect. If you have people, if I'm allowed to shoot a bow within 150 feet of somebody's house, if I have their permission. If I'm greater than 150 feet and I have permission to hunt on the land that I'm hunting on, and then I'm perfectly at rights to do that under DEC law. So they look at it like, well, what's the likelihood that you're going to go get like 15 people to give you verbal permission or written permission to shoot a deer within 150 feet of their house? If you already case a neighborhood, you can do that. There's certain areas of the city you can shoot a deer and you're not 150 feet from somebody's house with a bow. If the only thing you've got to worry about is if that deer dies on somebody else's property, and then you have to explain to that owner that's your deer, kind of, but like they technically own it because it died where it laid. But if they don't have a deer permit, they can't even claim the deer themselves. So they would have to go get a hunting permit. Like, they might want to split it with you. Like, hey man, I'll give you half the meat, just give me my fucking deer back. Like, that shit happens if the deer wanders, but it's all based on where you pull the trigger from your bow. Not where the bow lands, it's where the deer gets, where you let the ribbon fly. And that's, so you can do it, but the problem is that the DEC looks at, like, this is a heavy populated area. You shouldn't be allowed to hunt in that area. So square footage of hunting range, they kind of section out the city. So when you click this sector, and if you look at like the tags and the sections where you can pull tags, it's a pretty small percentage, which means they only give out a low number of tags in our area. You go to Franklinville, you go to Machias, you go to any of those other places, those places have a large square footage of farmland, which typically get DMP permits anyways, which is a deer management permit for merkin animals that are eating your farmland anyways. They are already giving them out. These lands are, so this low numbers thing, I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to double check this, is a bullshit thing. They don't give out a lot in our area because our area has low square footage for what they consider huntable land. But anyways, 16 minutes and 30 seconds in to the point that we started that conversation. We're going to skip ahead.
That means the number.
And we're going to skip ahead to 18 minutes and 15 seconds in, and
Where they might pop up, but I do agree with Alderman Witt. They are getting more and more brazen. You drive down 21st or 22nd or whatever street down there.
yeah, so you don't target them in Paul's neighborhood because Paul doesn't give a shit about
I
deer.
don't know how much destruction they do.
You wait till they hit one of those rich fucks Beamers.
Or not, but deer ticks. I don't know. They
Right, there you go, Don.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything from the county. I mean, I guess we could get an update. Maybe Mayor, you could try to.
Deers carry more ticks. I've had Lyme disease twice in my life. Lyme disease has crippled 3 people that I know of, and it is a serious thing because you don't know. There's lack of education in Lyme disease. And I mean, I remember when I went for I was 14 years old living in Connecticut when I had Lyme disease the first time, and I said to my dad, my joints hurt, and I said I was kind of feverish for a day, and he goes, well, we'll take you in for Lyme disease. I'm like, what the hell is that? He's like, you probably got bit by a tick. You probably have Lyme disease. Lyme disease is common here. It's Connecticut. Lyme, Connecticut is where it came from. I'm in Olean, New York. I'm 26, 27. No, wait a minute. How old was I? I was 28 or 29, and I had Lyme disease, and I told the PA at my doctor's office that I needed to be tested for Lyme disease because I was out in the woods camping with the family, and she looked at me and said, hey, you're not a bartender, you're a construction worker. I don't have bar rot. I'm not cutting limes. Lyme, Connecticut. Lyme disease. Lyme disease. This is where it comes from. It comes from Lyme, Connecticut. Lyme. It comes from a place that is right across the Long Island Sound from where, And if you talk to a couple people that I know, there's conspiracies out there how the disease got started. We'll get into that at a different time. But anyways, Lyme disease is a serious thing, and there needs to be more education about it. And then, so to reduce the deer population reduces deer ticks. Deers are big blood masses. Deers are immune to Lyme disease. They are. So your dog gets Lyme disease. Your cat can get Lyme disease. All these other animals can get Lyme disease. Deers are big blood masses that just help procreate Lyme disease, because ticks survive on blood. They don't survive on giving you Lyme disease. They don't give a shit if you get Lyme disease or not. They just carry the bacteria. The bacteria lives with them, and they are immune, so it just survives. Anyways, also property destruction, and we're going to get into that in just a second here, Johnny boy.
Reach out and ask what recommendations maybe the people at the DEC have on this. I don't know.
Let's give them a call.
Do you get complaints about the deer?
Call
in
them
the
up.
city?
Call your alderman.
No, I mean, we have, they're out on Constitution.
Sure.
I came back from Bonner's today, and it was, at 4:30, 4:45, it was tens, standing along the road there.
I wish we could hunt those lands.
21st Street, and the Eastfield, or over there, and, there, if you go to Seneca, you got a lot of deer in the city. But there is a program that we could get involved with. Now, the DEC itself will not come and shoot the deer.
Right.
They won't shoot the deer. They give you the culling permit. Just like Canonical Farms has a culling permit, just like most farmers out in Allegheny have culling permits. You get a culling permit, it's a deer it's a deer management permit. You have deer, they're a nuisance. It's a nuisance permit they're giving you. You're a municipality, so they call it a culling, because they're assuming you're getting rid of them for reasons for the above. You are a city, Olean. You should not have wild animals. Yogi Bears should not be in your city. You call Yogi Bear. Bye, Yogi Bear. You don't belong here. That's it. Bears are so rare typically in our area that we just relocate them. In purposes of being inside of the city. They're not rare, but they're not to be inside the city. So we'll just call the DEC and they'll relocate them. They don't relocate deer. They can't catch deer. They can catch bear. They don't catch deer. You shoot deer. Deer are like the big walking rats of the bear community. So you can't catch them. They just scurry away, and then they're still in your city, and then they procreate. And they make up hundreds of them, and you gotta cull them at a certain point, because we've killed all of their natural predators. We have killed off all the wolves because we started raising cattle. Look at Camry's farm. Like, you think they wanted wolves in this area? No, shit no. The wolves got near their farms, they shot them. We have some coyotes in this area, and I'm a big proponent of predator hunting. Predator hunting is a fun sport, and it also promotes people to keep populations in check, because the wolves would also kill the coyotes, or the coyotes wouldn't survive because of the wolves' consumption of their food source, and so they would have limited numbers. There's a lot of stuff that people don't realize with any of these things. They just assume, but they're so cute, we gotta keep them forever, like big hot teddy bears, and we got no. You have to do what you have to do, and I'm sorry, but that sucks, but it happens, and we've got to just deal with it. And this is how you deal with it. You get a culling permit, and then the city says, hey, we need to get rid of these deer. What do we do? And I believe Officer Rockefeller brought up the fact that, like, certain communities didn't have enough volunteers, or didn't have volunteers to do such a thing, and so they just brought in sharpshooters, which is way expensive. This is only in New York. I could find you... In 20 minutes, I can find you 15 volunteers by making phone calls. If I left them voicemails at work, they would call me back pleading to be on the volunteer list. This is Olean, New York. We hunt deer. We love deer hunting. That's why we are not as bad as Amherst. We take our traditional values, and people seem to forget this. Like, this is America. Your great great grandfather may have come from Ireland, Germany, Africa, Italy, Germany. We could start naming all of the different places that your ancestors could have come from. But we've created a community here because people in this community have married one another, had children with one another, we've been here long enough where our children then have had children with one another and stayed here or moved on or came back to this area and then had more children with one another. We've got like 3, 4, 5 generations of people here. We've created our own culture based on the socioeconomic places that we live, the geographical location that you live. All these things contribute to our culture in this area, and we're a culture of hunters. Vernon stated it earlier. He's a hunter. He goes to the DEC. He gets his permits. He hunts deer. I hunt deer. That's one of the things we get along on. Me and Vernon get along on gun rights. And I'll point that out like every time. He prefers Vernon. And if you ever watch any of my videos or you watch any of the council meetings, anytime somebody says Vern, it's very disrespectful, and you'll never catch me typically calling him Vern. It's not a, and if I do, I cough on it. Like I don't like to disrespect somebody when they've told me that they like to be called by a certain name. If I respect them, I respect Vernon, so I call him Vernon. Anyways, me and him get along on hunting rights, gun rights, a whole bunch of stuff like that. But anyways, like this area is, we have beautiful hunting lands. And then what happens is that our society as a whole has gotten away from hunting, and we have created a society that does not like the annihilation. And I say annihilation is a bad word. We do not like anything to die. Is how our society has become. And so what happens is all of a sudden we have less hunters. But at a certain point you have to keep populations in check. And I know that sounds inhumane, but you have to do it because otherwise they run in front of your car. Now they've killed your kid because your car struck that deer, killed your child in the passenger seat or in the rear of the vehicle because that deer flew through the passenger seat, killed your spouse. There are a lot of, I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I saw horrific things. I saw things that should have been horrific. A bear flew through a lady's windshield. She was driving alone and went right through the center console. She had blood marks all over her face from the glass shards. She didn't die. She was the luckiest person I've ever met. To date. The bear landed in the back seat and was pretty pissed off. So she pulled off to the side of the road and got the fuck out of that vehicle. And she called 911. And then while she was waiting for the police, she called AAA. And that bear was pretty pissed off and beat the shit out of her vehicle. I remember giving that lady a car the next day. And I had to take her to Sunshine Auto in Bradford. Or Sunshine something or other. We didn't deal with them too often, but so their name is escaping me. But it was something similar. Son of Shine's Auto. And there are some miraculous stories of drivers on the road, and I was grateful enough to experience some of them without having to experience them, and that's an amazing thing. So keeping your animal populations in check when you've created a human civilization. So civilization has no bearing on population of wildlife. You're trying to keep the wildlife alive, okay, but you got to be aware that the more your population increases, the more likely, and you neglect that animal population, the more likely these things are to happen. So, let's continue onward. Sorry.
We would have to have someone do that. Okay, so I think there's.
So we can find volunteers.
Even when they
We'll
say
find
there are
volunteers. I'll volunteer. I know nobody wants me to, so I will.
get the information out.
I will give my volunteership.
I just think we have more pressing issues too. But do as
Yeah.
you wish.
Yeah, I don't think they're creating a pressing issue. I have had some calls that end up.
It's not a pressing issue, it's a maintenance issue. Like, we have more pressing issues than cleaning the gutters at certain city buildings, but you don't.
With more of them, they are leaving droppings around more. I've had complaints where people thought.
You have more pressing issues than gutter issues at city buildings, but the problem is that you still clean the gutters. Like, we have more pressing issues, then you don't bring it to the city. The city council shouldn't have to deal with it then. If it's not that pressing of an issue to you, we'll just deal with it, unless you don't want Bambi killed. Which, oh well. It happens. Anyways, ticks, the destruction of people's properties, and then,
Defecate in their yard and
yeah, we don't want them.
deer.
Paul's laughing about that. It's fun. It is funny. Because only Jason
It
fans
is
will
building
talk
up.
about Jared.
You know, I'm sure for the person it's happening to, they wish it'd go away. It will get worse. I mean, there are a lot.
Don't laugh, Paul.
I don't know exactly how I feel about. I don't have any personal issues, and I think it's kind of isolated, but it's there.
It's not like cows.
Here it comes.
That's a different story.
We don't want to go there.
Don't go back there.
We had a bear. We had a bear spawn on Starbucks.
Oh, chickens. What about chickens? Where's Alderman Doherty? All right. At this time, I will make a motion to adjourn committee as a whole. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Alderman Anastasia. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. We are adjourned.
I can't wait for the next Life 22 episode.
Oh, what was that?
The next Life 22 episode.
All right. So I will oppose. Okay. We are adjourned.
We're rewinding that one.
The next Life 22 episode. The next Life 22 episode.
Yeah, you gotta wait for
All right,
the
so I
next
will
Life
call
22
to order
video.
the
It's
regular
right here,
meeting
Dave.
of the
Holla
Olean
out
Council
to
for Tuesday,
Dave's
September
Anastasia.
28th, 2021.
Looking at the camera,
Clerk,
too.
please
Look at
call
that.
the attendance roll.
Alderman Witt,
Here.
So we just concluded the
Alderman Gonzalez,
we just concluded the committee of the whole, and now we're going to the common council meeting.
Here, please rise for the invocation.
Now we do an invocation. Now typically, what I have to point out is Lens reads it, and then the common council does the Pledge of Allegiance after the invocation, and you'll notice something a little different here.
Heavenly Father, tonight we pray for our community, our neighborhoods, and the heart of our city. We humbly ask you to bless those who reside in this community with your love and compassion. We pray that your love and compassion shines through those who live, work, and play in this wonderful city. And we remember that this body, the Olean Common Council, and this community is a charter of Compassion City. 3 years ago, the Common Council committed our community as a charter for compassion, along with the Olean School District. The tenets of the Charter for Compassion is built on universal.
So, we did pass it. I'd like to point out that me and Nathaniel Smith did not. I backed Nate's play. I didn't think it was our place to do it. Nate didn't agree with the organization. So there's two different similar positions opposing this, but apparently it was 3 years ago today. I don't remember the anniversary of when I tell people no.
And unifying values found in all religions,
I'll be right back.
cultures, and people, regardless of race, ethnicity, or lifestyle orientation. Tonight we ask that you remind each of us of our commitment to be inclusively caring for all of our neighbors and children, where living compassionately by the golden rule is critical. We remember that we should look to help those who are suffering or in need, mentally, spiritually, financially, or socially, in our community, and when possible, work to develop compassionate programs to ease suffering, poverty, mental illness, disability, or those who feel disenfranchised. Finally, we ask that you please inspire Olean to become this compassionate community and to help us foster love and understanding for all people. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading, correcting, and approval of the minutes of the previous regular meeting.
The regular meeting of the Olean Common Council was held on Tuesday, September 14, 2021 at 6:35 p.m. Present, Alderman Crawford, Alderman Wood, Alderman Pence, Alderman Gonzalez, Alderman Bonner, Alderman Robinson, and Alderman Anastasia.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous regular meeting. Take a second, please. Second by Alderman Panis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Committee reports and unfinished council business.
We have none.
And how about communications from the mayor?
Sorry, gang. I had
I
a
have
P
a couple of
like
things.
a
There's
MF.
a proclamation that we'll have for ovarian cancer.
Okay, so we got communications from the mayor.
I'll have Len's
The Ovarian
read
Cancer
here in
Month.
just a second, and then I have two other items that I'll go over.
Special proclamation for ovarian cancer awareness month. Whereas ovarian cancer awareness month draws attention to one of the leading causes of cancer-related deaths in American women. Whereas ovarian cancer often has no symptoms, and when symptoms appear, they tend to be associated with other conditions. Whereas screening is difficult. In fact, at this point in time, no reliable screening or early detection tests exist for ovarian cancer. Whereas survival rates increased significantly with early detection. Therefore, in recognition that increased awareness is a very important tool in fighting against ovarian cancer, I, William J. Elliott, Mayor of the City of Olean, on behalf of the Common Council, do hereby proclaim September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Olean. Furthermore, I recommend that Olean residents to be aware of symptoms associated with ovarian cancer. In testimony thereof, I hereby until set my hand and cause to affix the seal of the City of Olean the 20th day of September 2021.
So that proclamation will be presented to Jay and Ann Sorokas. They were the ones that brought forth the information on the ovarian cancer, as well as Alderman Wick also provided information there. And I want to thank Linda for the ribbons that she gave to everybody to wear tonight. So we'll take care of that. The other item I want to bring everybody's attention to is that we have received our second check from Bird.
So Ovarian Cancer Month and the bird check.
$482. So that equates out to
Oh,
1,928 rides. So
I have to point this out real quick. So from this point forward, we're starting a drinking game. Every time you hear the word chaos, you have to drink twice. Pointing that out. Okay. Now we'll continue. Also, before we continue, I'm packing a tobacco pipe So if anybody would like to learn, I'm going to put a video out. Tobacco pipes. I smoked a tobacco pipe in pretty shitty order during one of my few last council meetings in defense of Dave Anastasia's smoking habit. I defended his smoking habit, and they said he couldn't smoke at a council meeting because even though he was on Zoom, he was technically participating in a meeting as an elected official, and the charter said something about smoking, no matter where you were, whether you were phoning it in or not. I think that's bullshit. And I also voted against them determining that you couldn't smoke in a city park. I'm not an avid smoker, but with Sober October coming up, I figure I could treat myself to a cigar or a tobacco pipe, and before Sober October, because we create sobriety from everything. So it is the biggest, it is the utmost sobriety that I can't even smoke a cigar. So and I know these rules were forced upon me by myself, so I accept them, and that's why I take advantage of the opportunity I have today, because I don't have time tomorrow. It'll be like 8:30 at night tomorrow by the time I get home, and maybe I could smoke a pipe and have a beer, but it's not even that important to me that I do such things. But I would just like to point out that that I'm going to take advantage of these opportunities while I have them. Otherwise, here we go.
So people are using them.
People are using the bird scooters.
Have you heard anything about chaos breaking out yet?
Not yet. So I think from what I've observed, people are getting better. There is bird scooters in a lot of places around the city that I've noticed. Well, hopefully they'll keep that. I think, and maybe the chief Richardson is, have we had many more complaints or about the craziness out there?
Is chaos ensuing, chief?
Twice.
I've heard a few incidents, but not a lot.
Okay.
A couple people have hurt.
What's that?
A couple people have been hurt.
Okay. Nothing serious? Okay.
And then I also want to let everybody know that we have received another award for walkable, or this is the first award for walkable Olean Phase 2. And this was presented to Bob Ring last week in Binghamton, where he went to the New York State Upstate section of Institute for Transportation Engineers. And we received this award in recognition of astounding planning, engineering, technology, and public cooperation and coordination. And this was sponsored by the city of Olean, and the designer is Clark Patterson Lee. So we do have an award here that we received. So that's a nice thing, you know, as we do these projects, that we're also being recognized by different organizations. And the last item I have is that Saturday I was invited to attend and speak at Delamore's function there at the Senator Brown.
No, this is something to.
And it was quite an honor being there. Linda was there.
Me and the missus missed the event, and with high regret. And I want to actually I'm going to bring Della on the show. She is an amazing woman. I love Della. You can tell the time difference between myself and Della's age, because Della will call me lover. I love Della, and my term of lover is different than her term of lover, but I love Della. I love Della more than anybody else that I love in this community, besides obviously excluding my own children. But she is one of the best people in this area. She is the most compassionate, and she's been fighting for Olean since I feel like the dawn of time. Della is Olean's Thomas Sowell. She is an amazing Nobel Peace Prize, should have won her, Like, Thomas Sowell should have won Nobel Peace Prizes. So should Della Moore in our area. And I am so regretful that I missed her ceremony this weekend, or this past weekend. And I don't know what to say. Sorry, Della. I'm sorry I missed your big day. And like, I wish that I could have made this video now to put on the screen, like you know, David Spade at one of those roasts. Hey, sorry I couldn't be there, big guy. Like, no, I wish that I had, but we'll have Della on the show. Don't worry. And she's an amazing person. There's tons of great people like Della, but no one compares. Here's to you. Who's like ya? None few. That was from the great Zelda Cunningham. She was a great person. She won like 7 keys to the city in her career. She died at 107. 106? Her husband died at 96. She was 102. Boom. Sorry. It's hard for me to keep everything straight. Zelda was an amazing person. She married Mel Cunningham, who made this a Purple Heart County. Who made New York State a Purple Heart State. Like, he was a great person. Della, all the great people that fall within the ranks that I've ever met, and yeah. So here comes the mayor with his speech.
The other people were there, and it was quite emotional to hear the accolades for Della Moore. I'm very proud to call Della my friend. So I want to just bring that to everybody's attention, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Della's pretty much all of Olean's fun, right? But no, that's wonderful. Thank you for the update there, Mayor. And yes, on behalf of the Common Council, kudos to the DPW department and the city on Walkable Phase 2. I hope this is yet another award with many more to come as we continue on our chaos.
Drink twice.
All right. Miscellaneous communications.
We have none.
City official reports.
None.
Proposed legislation and referrals.
PL 60-21 by Mayor Elliott, referred to regular meeting Tuesday, October 12,
On a pistachio. Oh my
2021 for resolution by Council President. PL 61-21 by Mayor Elliott, referred to Committee of the Whole Tuesday, September 28, 2021 by Council President.
Okay, before I open for public comment, I'd like to allow an opportunity for any of the aldermen to make a statement at this time. Alderman Witt.
Thank you. I just wanted, I received 3 calls about the upcoming spraying that
Oh my
quite
God.
honestly I
This
wasn't even aware of until I read the paper today. And my concern is
I wasn't aware of the
that
spraying.
this-
I'm sorry. Were you not there last week when you guys bitched about the spraying? Sorry. Now, she wasn't aware of maybe the effects of the spraying until she read some newspaper article. She's also a nurse. They've sprayed multiple times in the career that Linda has been mayor, and or on the Common Council, which, I mean, we're talking like at least a decade of her time served. So, if not 2 decades of time served being an alderman, a county legislator, a mayor. She doesn't know what these things involve. So here we go.
Spraying is the second time that we're having a spraying.
I know I should be using
The population of mosquitoes in our area, talking to folks, has decreased. We've already sprayed once. The other thing that's concerning with the second spraying is it's more toxic. And my concern is through the county. Are they going to make people aware of, for instance, it sits in the water, so if you're going to be fishing, it's not a good idea for a while. But also,
Who says that? Who says that? Did the county tell you this? Did the newspaper tell you this? Do they speculate this? I would like to know, because I know that I've had people bitch when they have rats and then they poison the rat. They're like, I can't use rat poison in my house because I have cats, because what if one of my cats eats a dead rat? Well, first off, cats aren't dumb enough to eat dead animals. Cats eat live animals, because when was the last time you saw somebody picking up a dead deer on the side of the road? Typically never, because the animal most likely has been there longer than you can verify that the animal is safe to eat. So most animals can just get near something and smell them based on instinct, because they're primarily predators, and they like cats, and they can smell that the rat had died of some unnatural cause, or natural cause, but has been something that they should not be eating because the animal died, right? Like, if you ate a bunch of poison, predators would come up to your corpse and smell you, and they would say, yuck, I don't want to eat this. This will kill me because of what's in it residually. Like, they know there is something in them, like, they... So anyways, where are we going with this? I'm sorry. The dead animal. The dead animal. Let's get back to what Linda was talking about.
For instance, it sits in the water, so if you're going to be fishing, it's not a good idea for a while. But also, right in the middle of this is our stroke Olean this weekend.
Oh. So Linda is talking about how we shouldn't be spraying. Oh, okay. So I was talking about predators like cats, right? So if your cat does eat a rat that has died of a poisoning, right? You know, your rat would have, the cat would have to eat, like, I think it's like 5 or more dead rats that died of the poison to extract the poison from them. And most likely the cat would eat around those parts, like the digestive system that would have contained the most amount of it. So your cat would never get sick from things like that. But so now all of a sudden you're worried that, like, people are fishing and they're going to be spraying for the mosquitoes, which they've been doing for longer than probably Linda's been alive.
The spraying takes, according to the paper, it'll start at 5:45 on Thursday and Friday. So I just want the county to be aware of that fact, and quite honestly, I don't really think it's necessary. The cost for the whole county, where a horse became ill and I think died in the northern part, and our part comes out to a little over $300,000. Half of it is reimbursed by the state of New York. But also my question is, will the city of Olean be paying again? And I would say we shouldn't be paying. You know, this is something we didn't ask for, and so
we did ask for it.
My opinion.
They said if